Welcome to Precision Golf. This is another one of our presentations. My name is Mark Woodward. I'm one of the full-time fitters at Precision Golf. Been working here for about 7.5 years. What we're going to discuss today is the impact of shaft type on the balance of the club. I've already picked 4 shafts. I'll run through what they are. We've got an Accra I-Series 60 gram. Then we've got, that's that very first one. Okay. Here we've got a lighter steel shaft in the form of a KBS Tour Light Regular. Probably just sub 100 grams as a weight. The next shaft we got is another steel shaft, and this is traditionally like the grandfather of golf shafts. This is a Dynamic Gold in an X100. Pretty much the 130 plus gram category here. And then finally, another graphite, which is the Mitsubishi MMT, which is a relatively new addition to the market. And this is where it's going to get interesting when we measure the balances and how this impacts balance and when you're trying to fit someone, the sort of person who these might fit into, okay? So what I'm going to do initially, we're going to use a TaylorMade P7MC as a head. So it's the same head weight throughout. All these shafts are the same length. It's going to capture a 37.5 build length on a 6-iron. That's the standard length for a 6-iron. So using the Accra shaft to start off with. We're now going to measure the swing weight on this. We're going to run through the swing weights so it's a demonstration of what swing weight each of these shafts capture. Bearing in mind, same head weight, same length of shaft each time. Okay? So the very first one, which is the Accra 60i, capturing just over C6. Now what we'll move on to is that KBS Tour Light shaft. Swing weight terms, C8. So the balance has just gone up a little bit from the lighter graphite of the Accra. Then we move to what is traditionally recognised as one of the heaviest shafts on the market with one of the heaviest balances on the market, which is the Dynamic Gold, being used for approximately 40 plus years now, and still very heavily used amongst the tour circuits, purely because it's a very tip stable shaft. So here, suddenly, D2.3. So you can see in swing weight terms, going from C range to D range means it's heavier in balance. Okay? And then finally, using the Mitsubishi Chemical MMT, and that's what gets really interesting, because on that swing weight scale, we've got something that's actually approaching D3, which is actually heavier in balance than the Dynamic Gold that is always recognised as a very heavy balanced shaft. And when you consider that that shaft's 105 gram, it's essentially 25 grams lighter than the Dynamic Gold, and yet captures a heavier balance. And that's a bit of a departure, because most of the graphite shafts up until this point on the market, they've always been, let's say on average, a slightly higher balance compared to steel shafts. Particularly a lot of the Acras in that I-Series that I just showed you, captures a very light balance, and in order to get to an optimum swing weight, you might need to increase the head weight for a particular customer. What's interesting about this shaft, it's naturally a very heavy balance for a graphite. The construction of that, there's metals in the tip section that enhances that balance of that shaft. So you might say, well, what impact does that have in fitting terms? Well, let's say we got a guy who's been a very low handicapper the whole of his life. He's getting into latter years, 60 plus, and he likes a certain feeling, but he wants the benefits of graphite. He wants to absorb shock, but he still doesn't want to give up that feeling of what he's always used to in the past, which is that heavier dynamic gold, for instance, Project X. That MMT is a very good example of shaft that could probably fit from someone wanting, in moving away from a dynamic gold, wants to take a bit of weight out of the shaft, but still cater for that feeling of balance, okay? And it's very interesting how now manufacturers, how they change the construction of the composition, the profile of a graphite to give you a certain feeling. You can have a high balance shaft for someone who, you know, traditionally might leave the face open a little bit. You want to square it up, keep the balance off of it, and on the opposite end of the scale, you've got a very heavy shaft in the form of this MMT. But when you consider across 4 shafts, all with the same head weight, all with the same length, and you've got a range of approximately 7 swing weight points, and it's interesting that the heaviest balance there was actually the MMT and not the dynamic gold that I thought was going to be the heaviest. So it just goes to show you how that can change, and that in fitting terms, when we're trying to give someone a certain feeling and a certain balance, how the shaft can impact that.